Okay, so Jess here, and I'm just going to talk a bit today about basically my life. So, oh wow, my mic fell over. Okay, I was diagnosed with autism on Thursday. Finally, yeah, I've waited for a while for the diagnosis, but I'll get to that later. I'm just going to start with the beginning, I guess. So, honestly, life has never been easy right from when I started year 3 in primary school, which I believe is grade 2 for Americans. I might be wrong on that. It's either grade 2 or grade 4. I think it's grade 2. But before year 3, I had really good teachers. So those years were never really an issue, except I was bullied slightly, which got worse when I started year 3 or grade 2 because of not having good teachers. So the issues, obviously, like I said, started in year 3, and I had quite a rude teacher. Though, given it was so long ago, and my long-term memory is the best, I don't really remember her that well, or anything she specifically did. I just remember she wasn't that friendly or nice to me. But there are quite a few things from other teachers that have actually stuck with me. So one of the main ones is the headmistress, and I think you'd call her the principal in America, and just how she treated me. So one time in class, she asked us the question, if being bullied, would you go to your parents or your friends? So she basically asked these options and asked people to put their hand up. So she said friends first, and I watched as literally every single person except me didn't put their hand up, put their hand up, and I was like freaked out because I didn't really have close friends. I always went to my parents, and I wanted to answer parents because everyone had put their hand up for friends, I got so anxious and I thought I could just like hide. So when she said parents, I didn't put my hand up. I just got freaked out. And then she said, who didn't answer? And directly called me out basically and humiliated me in the entire class of 9 and 10-year-olds, or 8, 9, 10-year-olds, something like that. And that was one of the worst moments I had in school. Like, that was awful. And she said it in such a horrible tone, and apparently I heard from my parents that she told them I was just being difficult. And she also told my parents stuff like this when I so say we chose a filming class, and I don't really remember this, my mum told me, and I always seem to pick a different film from everybody else, like when voting, and she also called me being deliberately difficult for doing that, which made absolute no sense because I didn't understand it. I was like 9, so I was just choosing the film or whatever that I wanted. I wasn't gonna conform. Like, I think the thing with me is I was kind of always myself in school, and they didn't like that because I was so different. Yeah, so I did not have a great time there. They also apparently told us, I don't remember this, I probably told my mum this, which is how I know this, but apparently told us not to report everything that goes on in school to our parents. And me being autistic, I guess, and not really understanding why I shouldn't, I told my parents everything. And it's like the same in secondary school or high school. But although I guess the first couple of years of secondary school is middle school in the US, but we just have it all lumped into one school. So we only have 2 schools. But there were some things I did in year 7, grade 6, which is like, I once got upset I didn't like being in a classroom without a teacher because I was a bit anxious about the pupils and kind of scared of them. So when a teacher didn't turn up, they all went in on their own, laughing and having fun with each other. And I sat outside a bit anxious, and a teacher walked past and asked me if I was okay. And I actually said, we haven't got a teacher. Me, I guess, being autistic, since I know now, didn't understand what I did wrong. So like the kids were really angry at me, and I just didn't understand why. I understand why now, and I probably wouldn't be the same now, but I genuinely thought I was doing the right thing. Well, in the teacher's eyes, I am, but I just like, yeah, there's situations like that where I'm just not normal and don't really understand. But back to going into chronological order, it was year 5 was also really terrible. So the residential was really bad, and basically, so this is year 5, which is grade 4, and I would have been 10, no, 9, I'm not 10, something like that. And I was, we went to this residential, which the year 5 and 6 always do in September, and I get chronic migraines. Well, I used to get chronic migraines. I don't now. I also found out recently that migraines are very common when people have autism, so that might mean something. But basically, we had this residential, and on the middle day, so we went 16th to the 18th of September, so 17th, which is also my mum's birthday, was the middle day, and it was just before dinner. I got a migraine, and everyone was doing art at the time. And this teacher was, so a couple of teachers, no, 3 teachers, I guess, were really angry at me because I was lying in the grass face down clutching my head because I was in so much pain because I got horrible migraines. And basically, these teachers were really horrible to me and said, get on with the work. They thought I was faking it. They thought I was just causing a scene. And ever since that day, I felt like horrible in that school because I didn't trust anyone. And I will go on to the things later, but this school, my primary school, which is elementary school, is one of the reasons I have really bad trust issues now, because I have terrible trust issues. And since you're meant to be able to trust teachers a lot of people in primary school love it, they really shattered my trust because now I struggle to trust adults and stuff. And there are other reasons, which I will say because I'm meant to be in chronological order. But that school, and also with the migraine thing, so I was crying in pain and they didn't believe me. And when my parents came to pick me up, my year 5 teacher just said to them, "Oh, she had a meltdown." So that was, yeah, fun. And he started being really horrible to me all throughout the next 2 years that I spent in his class at school before I went on to high school. And he was like just not very nice to me. And like I can't, because of my memory, I can't remember many specific things, but I do remember the worst things. Oh, and speaking of the migraine, talk about favoritism. We did year 6 leavers do, and we went to Flip Out, which is a trampoline park in the UK. And I think it was Flip Out we went to. Yeah, should have been. And so I sat in the front of the car on the way there. There's 3 of us in each car. And on the way back, someone got a migraine. They were allowed to sit in the front and they were all over her. Like, talk about favoritism. And I should mention here, one of the reasons why I hated school was the favoritism was crazy. Like, they didn't like me and they made it obvious. Their favoritism was really bad. There were kids that they would give everything to. The only time I ever got picked for things was when it was a teacher who was nice, which occasionally there was one, and a retired teacher who was nice came back to do the school play, and I got picked because I was the better actor. And also if it was picked out of a hat, like I had a tennis ball signed by Andy Murray at a tennis thing, which I got picked out of a hat to go to. So there are times like that, but all the other times it was never me. Like you could basically tell if they didn't like you. And my mum thinks now that she should have pulled me out of school, but because in year 5, but because only 2 years left, she didn't bother. Now, if I went back there, I'd say I want to go to another school. But yeah, so I had an awful time there. Secondary school was okay in year 7, but like I said, before I did do those things, like the thing I just mentioned earlier about the teacher not being there and stuff. So yeah, year 7 was alright. Year 8 is when my anxiety started to come out. That was 2019, I think. And I started getting panic attacks and stuff. Like, I had a panic attack before I was meant to present. My first panic attack was a really weird one because I couldn't help it happening, but it was stupid. Because someone told me I did attention, a girl in school who wasn't very nice, and my head just felt really hot, and that was my first experience of a panic attack. I don't even know why I had one. But yeah, so my anxiety started in year 8, and I just started spiraling a bit and stuff. And then lockdown made that 10 times worse. And after lockdown, I just couldn't cope anymore, like, with school and everything. And yeah, so what was I saying? Basically, I actually enjoyed lessons, but I didn't enjoy the other stuff because I often found that I was alone at breaks sometimes. Like, it was called recess in the US. And I liked being in lessons, but I didn't like anything else because the kids are not very considerate of people with autism or anxiety because they just don't care. So that even if, like, they will get too close to you, they will shout really loud, and I can't deal with loud noises and stuff. So it was more the times in between lessons I hated. And in sixth form, when I was it's basically the last years of high school, 16, 17, 18. Basically there I don't remember what I was going to say. But yeah, oh yeah, that's right. So I started actually leaving lessons slightly 5 minutes early, but only if the teacher remembered. So it kind of got a bit awkward sometimes when the teacher remembered because I was too anxious to tell them myself. One of the teachers just didn't like me leaving early or coming late because I arrived 5 minutes late as well. But that was an agreement I had with my head of house, I think. So, like, I was allowed to do that, and one teacher didn't like it. And although I'm not completely going in chronological order now, because I'm going to go back to a couple of things, in February 2024, well, not really, yeah. So actually, in November 2023, I started to get really ill. Like I had like upset stomach all the time, headaches, really bad, and this upset stomach started at the end of November 2023. It didn't go until the end of February 2024, and it was basically every other day, pretty much. My anxiety was making me really sick, and I was like feeling sick and queasy all the time, and I was like, what is causing this? And it turns out my anxiety got even worse, and it just made me so ill. So I basically, so to speak, quit school. Like, I was still allowed to sit my A levels to get me into uni. Oh, I'm doing a lot better at uni. And basically, I stopped going. And here's the interesting thing. As soon as I stopped going, a couple of days later, no longer felt sick again. And I'd been sick for 3 months. And it was like, so I know what was making me sick then. So yeah. That was, but I still did my exams. I got 3 C's, even though I got 47% in media and 68% in English. So no, 65% in English, 68% would have been a B. So I was a bit mad I didn't get a B for English, but got me into uni, and does it really matter now? I'm doing my degree. I've been there a year and a half. I'm also, there's a couple of other things I will mention as well. I also had a lot of fallouts with friends online. A lot of them didn't know I have autism because I didn't know then. Maybe they would have been more understanding if I did. And it was also some things that happened. Like, some wrote really bad reviews on my IMDb saying that I write like a 9-year-old and my art is crap. For a start, I like my art, so does it matter what anyone else thinks of it? No. And secondly, if I wrote like a 9-year-old, I wouldn't have got accepted to university an hour after my application was sent in. Like, I got a conditional offer, of course, but they accepted it within an hour. And I don't know anyone else who got accepted that quickly. And I even linked my YouTube in my application, and they must have liked my writing so much and my creativity and stuff that they wanted to accept me. So, and I've also been there a year and a half now, so I'm halfway through uni, and I've never got lower than a C, and mostly I've got Bs. So I can't write like a 9-year-old. If I get a B in my creative writing and screenwriting degree, can I? Yeah, so I've had not so nice people online, but hopefully that's behind me. Hopefully I don't lose any more friends. And I think also it says something about them as well, because I was really angry at a friend the other day and I got a bit annoyed, and she didn't ditch me. She just said sorry and it was fine. But other people recently, well, no, in the past, wouldn't have been like that. They would have also got angry. And I think sometimes I have to think it's not me that's the problem. Because as an autistic person, I tend to just blame myself. Rather, like, I feel guilty about everything. I cry, I blame myself for everything. And that's not always a good idea. I'm going to go back to some things that were not school related, but I've got one more school related thing actually. I used to have school meals in primary school, elementary school. And there was this really nasty teacher who would force me to eat stuff. So there's this brand of mashed potato which is called Smash, and it was absolutely revolting. And I would be forced to eat that, so I would literally try and dip my sausages in it to take away the taste. It was disgusting, and I was forced to eat that. Now I just refuse to eat it. Like, what can they do? They can't touch me or do anything to me. So, but yeah, that was horrible. And she made me eat certain things. I'm like, I just want to eat what I like. And I got called a picky eater. No, I was just picky about textures. Because, for example, I like tomato ketchup. I like the flavour of tomato ketchup and tomato soup. But I do not like tomatoes. And the reason why is the texture, because the squidgy texture. So, I also like stuff like olives, mackerel, and licorice. That's not really that picky, is it? I like really unusual things, but I don't like common things like sandwiches. So I'm not exactly picky. I'm just picky about textures and like where things go on the plate. So yeah. And also going back to the trust issues, I had a family member hurt me once, which was my nan, who in February 2019 was really horrible, and I don't see her anymore. And you're supposed to trust your family, right? But she helped heighten my trust issues, and that's actually when my anxiety started. So she kind of ruined my life for a few years. But she did stuff like force me to go out on a walk, and that was before I knew I had high mobility, which I got diagnosed with in February 2023, and that's been a lifesaver. I'm actually going to get a wheelchair now, where I can enjoy the Lake District when I go there this year to September. But yeah, that's helped, and I've ended up getting PIP, which means I get £560 a month by the government, and that's for anxiety, high mobility, and autism. But yeah, so I got that February 2023. That's good. But my nan still wouldn't understand, so she would force me to walk, and she got annoyed when I was her guest, and yet sometimes she would just sit down on the TV and tell me not to bother her. It's like, and she just wasn't the typical nan you'd have, really. And yeah, she just wasn't a nice person. So that didn't help. And also, some of you may know about this, but the youth group I had were the kids weren't self-consciously horrible. They just didn't always include me, but they didn't know they were doing it, kind of. But it's the youth leaders, and when I stand, I get dizzy for too long, and I have to hold on to something at least, but I'd rather sit down. And during worship times or singing times or something, they wouldn't let me sit down. They would force me to stand up and everything, and I was too scared to disobey then. Now I would, because they caused me a migraine, which was not fun. But and they were just really horrible. They didn't believe that I got pain. They said you can only worship standing up, but the thing is, surely everyone worships in their own way. Like, I can sit down if I want, because I actually feel more engaged and focused if I sit down, because if I'm sat up, I'm just focused on the pain, which isn't really fun. And another time in Eve, so I get uncomfortable saying my name out loud. It just feels weird. My real name. Not Jess. That's fine. I'm thinking of changing my real name to Persephone though, like legally. Well, maybe legally, but basically. So we went to different houses, and they asked, because there were a couple of new people, they asked us to go around and say their names. I got a bit awkward saying it, and then someone just said, the leader just said, we'll sit here until you say it. And she's one of the nasty ones that's forced me to stand up and tries to not include me in things. I actually stopped going to the youth for months because of her and a couple of others, and she was really rude to me, and she just sat there, and they all just sat there staring at me, and they just said, please just say it. And they were actually making it worse because it was less likely to say it with them, and I have hardly been able to repeat my name out loud since. It's like traumatized me pretty much. Oh, my foot is stiff. Okay, but yeah, so that was horrible. And there was also another time a couple of youth leaders got annoyed at me for not opening my Bible, when sometimes I just want to sit and listen. I don't want to follow along. I just want to take it in, and then that has just stopped going completely after that. But yeah, they were not good. So basically that's all I really need to talk about, and that's basically my life and what it's been like. But finally on Thursday, 22nd of January 2025, I got diagnosed with autism. And just a quick thing about the autism, I got referred in October 2023 to a place called Sussex Partnerships. I'm okay saying that because Sussex is a big area. I can't say the name of where I am now though, because I think that's only in my town, my city. And we were told about a 3-year waiting list. Got to the middle of last year, and it was like, when is this going to be? And my mum also had an altercation with Sussex Partnership, so she also complained about the autism assessment time as well. And she also read on Facebook that someone said the waiting list is now actually 5 years. So I wouldn't be diagnosed until way after uni in 2029. So, and then we found a place on Right to Choose in my town that did it in person with a 10-week waiting list. Got referred in August, got my appointment in January, and just been diagnosed. So, yeah, but I'm glad I don't have to wait until 2028, 2029 even, because that's still 3 years away. But I've actually got my diagnosis now, and hopefully it can help me with various things. And I will also put in the description a list of all my autistic traits, just see what you think and stuff. I'll make sure it doesn't reveal anything about my location or anything. I will just check it through. But thank you for listening to this really long video about my life story, basically, and I hope you enjoyed. I'm also going to add that, as well as everything else, No One Ever Autism explains how I'm about the cyclist, because it is definitely my special interest, and it's very common for autistic people to get upset when someone belittles or does something to upset their special interest. So maybe now people will understand why I'm like the